guys, it's Paul from Crowborough Guitar Tuition. Welcome back to another video lesson. Today we are looking at Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. It's a riff that probably everybody's heard before and every guitarist should know. Everyone should have this in their arsenal. And the good news is it's a really, really easy riff to play. But having said that, it's probably one of the riffs that, personally I think at least, I see tagged incorrectly the most. So most people want to play the main riff with simple power chords, so an F5, a B flat 5, A flat 5, D flat 5, etc. But the way I learnt it was actually playing them as full chords, so an F sus4, a B flat, A flat sus4, D flat. So that's the way I'm going to teach it. If you think it sounds better that way, fine. If you want to use power chords, I guess you can still do that. So this is how the riff goes. We're going to start off with an F sus4. So we're going to put our first finger on the first fret on the E string, on the low E string, and then we're going to use our third finger to bar across the third fret on the A, D and G strings. If you're not used to doing that, it can feel a bit weird, but basically we're going to use this third finger, we're going to back bend it a little bit. I don't know if you can see which camera is best to do it on over here. Your finger will look a bit like that. It's that kind of back bent idea. And that should cover all three strings, but also without covering that B and E string that you don't want to ring here. So you should have this chord. That's our first chord. The next chord is a B flat, where we're keeping exactly the same shape. We're just going to move everything down one set of strings. So we're going to move off of the E string down to the A string as our root note with our first finger on the first fret there. And we've got this B flat. And then our next chord, we're just going to do exactly the same shape, keeping the same shape all the way through, up to the fourth fret on the low E string. Same shape, and then that's an A flat sus4, and then we've got a D flat chord by moving down one set of strings, fourth fret. The root is at the fourth fret on the A string. And the rhythm for this really goes something like this. So we've got a couple of strums down, down, up, or similar to that on the chord, and then we're going to take our fingers off of the strings themselves, or at least off the fretboard. We're going to leave them on the strings so we can get that muted sound of the clicking between each chord. So we have. So I tend to bring my hand up and just mute those strings to do that. So you can do that between those chords. So when you put that together, you should have. Now you don't need to worry about being too accurate with how you play this. At the end of the day, Kurt Cobain wrote loads of great songs with Nirvana, and he's recognised as a great guitarist. But in terms of kind of being a precise technical player, he's not at all. It's all about how you play the song, playing with attitude. So don't worry about hitting every single note at exactly the right point. That's not what it's about. So then that's the main riff, and that's used in the chorus and that intro section. And then the next part is the verse. And the verse is really, really simple. All we want to do is roll back our distortion a little bit. And so we have much more of a clean sound in the verses. I think he uses a bit of chorus on his guitar as well. All we're doing is using our first finger to fret across the first fret on the B and E strings. And when you do that, it should just ring out like this. That's all there is to the verse. It's really, really simple. It just, the frequency of it just picks up a little bit when you get to the pre-chorus, when you start singing hello, hello. You just play those notes more so than you had been. You can listen to the song and hear whether it's full. You get back into the chorus, it's the main riff all over again. The next section is a section that falls just after the chorus, and it's got that little bend section in that you probably hear, and is quite distinctive for the song. But this is how you play it. We start off with an F5 power chord, down to an E5 power chord, back up to an F5 power chord, and then up to an F sharp power chord. So we have, and then we've got the bend, which is that distinctive bend on the 3rd fret on the G string. And I tend to use my first finger for that, but use whatever you feel most comfortable doing. For me, I always find that it's a tricky bend to get to in time. Again, it's not about being precise, it's about a bit of attitude, and Kurt Cobain certainly didn't always hit that right. But it's on the 3rd fret on the G string, so you should have, when you put that together. So the second part of that riff, after the bend, is a repetition of that initial section with the F5, the E5, F sharp 5. Sorry, no F sharp 5 there. And then we're going to move up to the 6th fret on the E string, do a power chord at the 6th fret, 3rd and 4th fingers on the 8th fret, it's a B flat 5, and then down to an A flat 5. So we should have, okay, and that's all that little section is. It just repeats twice, I think. And then it's back into the verse. Or the second time round into the chorus. Into the solo. And that's what we look at now. And the solo starts with a slide up to the 10th fret on the D string. And then we go to the 8th fret on the G string, up to the 10th fret on the G, and then back down to the 6th fret on the D string. So I would use my 3rd finger for those ones that were at the 10th fret, my 1st finger for the 8th fret, and also my 1st finger when I drop back to the 6th fret there. Then we're going to put our 3rd finger on the 8th fret on the G string, and we hit it once, and then we're going to hit it again and bend up to the next note. So hopefully you can hear that. He hits the note twice there. First, just as it is, then the bend. And you want to hear that whole bend. You want to hear it go up and come back down. We don't want... You want to hear the whole thing. So we have... And then down to the 6th fret with our 1st finger. And then move down to the 5th fret. And then you just got a little alternating between those two notes. So that's the 8th fret to the 6th fret on the D string. And then we've got another bend. Now for bends on the lowest 3 strings, I tend to bend the string downwards towards the floor. I mean, the large majority of bends I tend to do, and I find myself doing, are on the highest 3 strings. And when I'm doing that, I would bend upwards towards the ceiling, like we did with that first bend. But with this bend, I'd bend it down towards the floor. And also important to say, for all these bends, for as many bends as you play, there's always... I like to use all 3 fingers on a string to bend it where possible. There's plenty of songs where you won't have the opportunity to do that. It would just be too awkward to do that, or the next notes will mean that you can't use all the fingers you'd like. But on the whole, it's a good rule of thumb to use all 3 fingers to bend and give yourself the strength to do that, and the control. So we've got that note that bends downward. So after you come out that bend, you go down to the 6th and 5th frets and kind of alternate between those 2 notes. Then the whole thing repeats again, and the second time round though, it finishes with that slide down to the third a few times over. So you have. And he just repeats that a few times. So when you put it together, hopefully you'll have something a bit like this. And that kind of just tails off into feedback into that final verse. That's the whole of the song. Hopefully that's been helpful for you and given you some ideas at least of how to play it. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in again next week where there'll be more videos, and I'd love to see you again. Thanks very much for watching. Bye. Hi guys, thanks for watching. For more guitar tips and video lessons, click on the subscribe button down below and let me know in the comments what songs or video lessons you'd like to see. If you want to keep up with some of our news, you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, or you can always check out our website, crowboroughguitartuition.com.